It is day 17 of Veda, and I'm here at the historic Roland Theater wearing my Lloyd glasses in order to reflect the theme of the stock footage. Back in November, I went to
The Carmike 12.
and I thought I shot a lot more than I actually did. I just shot a Movember entry in the men's room, which I would cut to right here if I hadn't already removed all the Movember footage from my phone. And this.
This is illegal.
And I'll explain what Big D is a little later. I also shot some footage which I think I plan to use to show the theater's distance from the mall and the two older theaters, one of which was in the mall, the other of which was across the street from the mall, and possibly also how there was, at least at the time, no restaurant by the new theater, but a Denny's and a Red Robin by the older theaters. I don't know. It's been too long. And I really need to start writing things down. The first film I saw that day was Spectre, which I enjoyed, although I wish they hadn't done the whole "your arch enemy is also your brother," essentially, thing. But what I remember most was having to wait for the film to start. And wait. And wait. Here's the problem. It's all digital projection now, and I thought I got a shot of their server room. It looked pretty neat, pretty science fiction-y with the blue light. But the problem is, if you're doing film, you have to, well, ideally have a projectionist in each booth, but less ideally, have a projectionist go to each booth to start the film on time. Since it's all automated, if the film doesn't start on time, well, I didn't want to go out and tell someone because I was afraid that the film would start while I was out. Finally, somebody else who, well, let's face it, was less lazy than I am, went out and they got the film started and all was well, but I have something to say about hiring too few people a little bit later. The next film I watched was the Peanuts movie, which started on time and which I would have bought on DVD by now if only one of the major retailers would put out some sort of special exclusive edition with something I can only get there and only for a limited time. You know, they used to do that, but well, I guess normal people didn't like it. Stupid normal people, always ruining everything. The one thing I didn't like was the Scrat short that it started with. Now, I hate Scrat. Either let him starve to death or let him eat the acorn. Or just kill him anyway. But this is the one where he finds an alien spaceship and accidentally creates the solar system. And what really annoyed me was the rings of Saturn were already in place before a planet was there. The rings of Saturn are only there because they're held in place by the moons orbiting the planet. No planet, no orbit, no moons, no rings. Yeah, that's the part that bothered me. The rest of it, that's scientifically accurate enough, but not the rings. And finally, I saw The Hunger Games Catching Fire Part 2. And it's been a while since I read the books, and I only read the books once. I only saw the previous films once, but a lot of stuff I don't remember being in the book, and I think the problem is they had to pad it out in order to get 2 feature-length films out of it. It kind of works with Harry Potter. Look how thick the last book is compared to the early ones anyway. Book 4 is 734 pages long. And Book 7, well, it's not that much longer, but there's probably less stuff you can really cut. Whereas, look here. This certainly doesn't look any thicker. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. Wait a minute. That's actually 1 page shorter than Book 2. What the? Oh, well, there are unnumbered 2 pages of acknowledgments. Unless they actually have the author talking to the camera, telling us the acknowledgments, then I don't think that counts. And even so, that's only 1 more page! But I don't really remember much about the film. Most of what I remember is the Big D Theater. Big D is what happens when you want to do IMAX, but you don't want to pay royalties to IMAX, and you have no idea what you're doing. Let me try to demonstrate. Here's the screen. It is a very wide screen. Let me see here. And I'm not going to mark up my table. Hey, remember that scene in Otaku no Video? By the way, hurry up with my Blu-ray, Robert Woodhead. Actually, don't. I paid too much money for a rush job. Where they're watching this space battle movie on a really wide screen and you can't even see the whole screen at once. Now imagine a screen like that being used on a movie where kind of would help if you could see the whole screen at once, and there are, of course, plenty of seats, and there are two tiers, right, and they overlap. And, oh yeah, here's a projection booth, which means if you're sitting, in this area, you might have difficulty seeing the screen. Actually, more like in this area, really. And the seats, oh boy, they actually have some demonstration seats. Let me give you a reenactment. You know how a lot of theaters have seats that recline somewhat? Big D theaters have seats that recline too much. How do I demonstrate this? Roughly like this, yeah. Which means basically I had to sit rather stiffly and uncomfortably to avoid looking at the ceiling. You know how in stadium seating there are basically no bad seats? In Big D there are basically no good seats. Hey, look! This bottle has a neck, which conveniently brings me back to the subject of insufficient employees, because this new theater has a combination ticket booth and concession stand. And if you don't think that's a bad idea, then it was probably your idea, or you really like the skywalk connecting the Baltimore Hilton to the Baltimore Convention Center. Not only does this, of course, mean that you have to wait to buy your ticket because the person in front of you can't decide what candy or soft drink or size of popcorn they want and is possibly arguing with their children. If there's too long a line at the concession stand, you can just not buy any concessions this time. In fact, with my diabetes, what is there I can buy? Diet Cola, I guess, of which there's usually one selection. Here I have to wait, and it gets even better. The show times and the concession stand menus are on video screens, which cycle. They show a little over half of the movies, and then they show the remaining less than half of the movies, and then they show the concessions, and then they show the rest of the concessions, and then they go... So if you're not quite sure which movie you want to see, and this does happen. I mean, yeah, you can go outside and look, you can get out your phone and look, assuming you can get a signal, but I'm used to just looking up and seeing what's there, and of course, if I've just seen a movie and I have time to see another one, I might not know what's playing and when, and then I can look. And they need to at least hire one person to manage the line, so it's... Well, I guess it's still not as many people as if they would have separate concession stands and ticket booths. They do have a separate alcohol concession stand, but I think that's only because Pennsylvania law requires it. Another problem was that in all three theaters there was sound leaking in from the adjacent theaters. Mikey G, if you're watching, you're the expert on this. Is this just an unavoidable thing? And now, a review of 10 Cloverfield Lane. Well, I just saw 10 Cloverfield Lane. I managed to avoid spoilers, which is a good thing, too, because really it's a movie that should be gone into knowing as little as possible. And since it hasn't been out very long yet, I'd better not spoil anything. At least it was short.
For some reason, I feel the urge to hang from that.